Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. Also, folks, please make sure that you are on or installed on have 2523.1 installed. This is the version that has the federal tax tables for 2024, has all of the appropriate information in there for the new payroll year. And anything to do with Atrix, at least as best that we have control over, that you can use to make sure that you have all the current information regarding payroll. This is really, really important. If you are on version 24 of Church Windows, you will not be able to produce tax documents and tax forms, even probably even your 941 form. So please make sure you're on that version. If you do not have the email that we sent back around the second week of December, please call us or email us. We'll be happy to send that to you, but hopefully everybody has that email, okay? Okay, so unlike 1099s yesterday, this is the only thing I want to reference about this, is you can produce 1099s for contractors that are paid out of accounting or for contractors that are paid out of payroll, okay? So you can generate 1099s from either module. Payroll, that's not the case, of course. Employees are strictly entered and paid through Church Windows Payroll. Payroll is the only place where you can produce the W-2 forms and W-3 form for your employees, okay? Cannot do that in accounting, all right? I'd just like to make sure that that's clear, okay? Also, again, government changed this year if you have 10 total returns, that means combined total returns of 1099s and W-2s, not 10 of each, 10 total or more, you are required by law to e-file those W-2s and 1099s, okay? Not 10 of one or 10 of the other, 10 total. So if you have 10 plus W-2s and 1099s, you must e-file. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in here today. I'm going to show you those screens in Atrix where you can process that e-filing and begin that processing for those forms, e-filing with them, but I can only get you to a point. At that point, once it's in Atrix, if you've got technical issues or account issues with setting them up in there, they've advised us to instruct our users to contact their technical support for assistance if you're having issues with their system, okay? But I'm going to show you where and how you can make certain choices regarding Church Windows and the processing of the W-2s, okay? But just be aware that 10 maximum is 10 plus requires e-filing for whatever the price is through Atrix, or if you're the time that it's going to take you if you choose to manually enter that information with the IRS, it's going to be certainly less than what we understand to be some pretty severe penalties if you have 10 or more returns and you choose to send those in. It's very steep, several $100s per return. So just be aware, it's with the expense that's involved with Atrix or elsewhere is going to be probably pale in comparison to what it could be in the form of penalties, okay? On the first page there right there, it says at the top of the first page of the document, in version 2523.21, okay? So again, that stresses the importance of getting that installation updated, okay? And there it is at the very top of how the IRS is now requiring employers with 10 or more returns, W-2s and 1099s to file electronically. Below are the instructions for the process, okay? And it's as simple as when we go into payroll, as the screenshot shows, we go up to reports, export, tax reports, tax forms, okay? And it should now open up. It's now opening up the actual list of Atrix forms. And folks look at this and go, wait, but these aren't my 23 forms. No, because folks, you have to choose the year right here at the bottom. There are some forms that are available for 24 already. So in order to see 23 forms, we must choose 23 from the year menu. Now all of our 2023 forms appear as they should. Okay. We don't have it set up in our data here, I don't have it to show you, but some of you may be, if you have, are subject to local taxes, or then you may get a message as it's shown there about the second image down on page 1. Local taxes have not been set up correctly. Go to data setup, local tax, edit each tax, and fill in the state tax, and account number. Where we do that, if you're getting that, is you go right up here to data setup, right across the top center to local tax. Hopefully everybody can see my cursor jumping up and down there. Click on local tax. This now opens up each one of our local taxes that we have set up. And if you click on it and you click on the little edit button right here, what it requires is all of this has to be completed, notably description, abbreviation, state, and tax. Okay, and likely it's the one to the right of the state called tax that's incomplete. So depending on it, we do our best to try to get that information entered in our software, but you have to come in here based on the type of tax and edit all of this for each one of the local taxes and make sure that it has the description, abbreviation, state, and tax account number, if applicable, for the respective district or area or whatever it is, school district or local flat rate tax, okay? This has to be completed. Once that's done, you would simply click Finish. And then we would go to the next one, click Edit, check it as well, click Finish, all right? Once you've checked those, then you should be able to go back to reports, tax forms, and it should print, come up and bring up the form without that message of local taxes not having been set up correctly, okay? If not, and you've checked that, and you're on version 25 and you still get the message, please call us 800-533-5227. We're happy to look at it and get the problem resolved with you, okay? You know, software's, you know, bugs, there's no such thing as bug-free software. Problems happen, you know. We do our best to work through those things, but they sneak through, okay? All right, so back to our forms. We down to our list here. We go W2, W3. Notice further down here, I've got 2023 W2/W3, and we're choosing the year of 23. Reporting period can be left as any, that's fine. Now, before we click print, it's important that the Atrix software does require that contact and company information be entered. That's entered here. It will populate automatically if you click on the contact/company info tab here at the top. Okay, so you tell, you know, over here to the right, it should probably populate with 501c regular form 941 automatically. But if it's different, it should be set here as well. But here I've got my name, title, and email address entered. Address is fine in entered if you wish. Telephone number can be entered as well, but what is required is contact person or name, title, and email address. If you don't, you can enter it at the screens that we're going to see here in just a minute, okay? So I have that information now populated. If there is a third-party designee information or paid preparer information that needs to be included, you would enter that under the designee preparer tab, okay? Many of you that may not be applicable for, but if it is for you, this is where you would enter that, and you do have to put a check mark in the box in addition to entering the required information, okay? We don't have any such animals, so we're not going to be populating that. So I've chosen my form, I've chosen the year, and reporting period is fine. I'm now going to click print, and now it's actually opening up the information or sending the information into the Atrix system now, and it's going to pop up here. So this is basically saying that there's been some changes to some company information, asking me if it's okay. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it is. It's just saying I updated contact name and title, active state that was there, you know, there. It's in my data. So we're going to click OK through that. Atrix is already checking and trying to make sure that we are protected with regards to the information that we have entered. Per the page 2 there, it talks about the W2 setup wizard. Here we are at the first page. Do you want to test drive the W2, W3 with only the first 25? Do I want to test drive it with all of it? You can if you wish, folks, but you can just go ahead and do no thanks, start processing my W-2s as well. You have, I believe, last year, I think we determined that Atrix gives you up to 10 times to try to be able to process these if they are saved. If you don't save it, then it doesn't detect that there's a limit on it. So I'm just, for the purposes of our webinar, going to choose no thanks, start processing my W-2s. Okay. As it notes here, W-2, W-3 Wizard Test Drive allows you to see how the process works, but does not save any of your information. So I guess that tells us pretty clearly what it does. So we're going to go ahead and click next. We're on to step 2 here, which is where it's verifying our federal EIN number. Again, if this is wrong, I don't know if it can be, don't think it can be changed here. We would have to go ahead and change that at our account system profile window in Church Windows, then run this again if it's wrong. But hopefully it's right for everybody. Okay, it is in this case for us. So again, we're going to click next. Again, it opens up the, please read carefully, multiple payroll data files. What this means, folks, is that if you happen to have, say, maybe 2 different databases within which you have your employees under the same tax ID, maybe an example might be church employees in Church Windows Installation 1, maybe a preschool employees in Installation 2 for Church Windows. The software, Atrix, or the software will allow us to combine those 2 groups of employees together into one filing, okay? And so we're not going to cover that today, but if I did, I would choose yes, I use multiple payroll data files for this EIN, but we don't. So we're just going to leave it as no use single payroll data file. I'll virtually guarantee that 99% of you are probably all filing using a single payroll data file. If you're not and you require assistance, please reach out to us, 800-533-5227. Okay. There's an option under 1099s for that too. We're going to cover that later this month. So no use single payroll data file. We're going to click next. Now we're on to page 3. It's where it's going to be prompting us for company information. Again, it has automatically populated my contact name, my title, my email address, and if I had phone information or contact address, it would populate that as well. Okay. Then we go to next. I mean, that's the church name as well, of course. And any of this, folks, can be edited. So if right here I notice that my name was misspelled, if I want to change that, I can just change that right here. Okay, I don't have to go into that contact information if I want to continue to process my form. I can just change it here. Then we go to next. So again, we're now down to the tax preparer type. So again, most of you are probably going to be choosing I'm filing for my company employer, unless you're a third-party paid tax preparer, which you would change that down to the second option. Okay. We're going to leave it as I'm filing for my company employer, since that's probably what most folks are doing. We're going to click next. Now it's asking me to fill in required state tax information. I'm just arbitrarily ending something, folks, but it's telling us that this information is missing. It will not allow us to process the W-2s with this missing information. Okay. So I had the missing state information. I had some data entered for something that I tried for something for the state of Mississippi. So I've got to enter that information. I don't know if that's a valid tax account number, but I'm entering something there in order to be able to process it. You would have want to, of course, make sure it is correct if that's indeed in play. So we're going to click next. Now notice has all 3 of the states that I have something posted for in 23 with their respective tax account number. If there is anything red here, it will not let you proceed. If I click on one, notice to the right, it does allow me to click add if I wish to add one, or edit if I want to edit an existing one. So by clicking on that one and clicking edit, notice it says what state, tax name, and account number if applicable. Okay. If there's any red here, it's not going to permit me to process or move forward. You've got to get that fixed, because there are state W-2s and filings that are required as well for many states. So in those cases where there are, the software is going to want to do that, and Atrix wants to offer that option as well. So we're going to click Next. We have no conflicts on local taxes. Okay, so again, we've all got local taxes. So again, if there was any red here, it would require that we fix that before clicking Next. So we are going to process and click to Next. Again, if I click on one and it needs to be edited, I can highlight it and click Edit to edit that information in. It even allows me to change the tax, the group name, anything as it has to do with it here, state, group, what is it? RETA, is it school district tax? Is it a flat rate tax? What have you, allows you to edit that as needed, okay? Any red, it won't permit us to move forward if it's required. So there is no red, we're going to process to Next. Now here it's asking us on our data verification, and this is the one that is probably most important here, is the first one doesn't assume, but it says, do you have any employees who are exempt from any part of Medicare or Social Security taxes? If you have a minister that you have paid in Church Windows Payroll, the answer to that is going to be yes. So we're going to choose yes on that. If you don't have any ministers, then you're going to choose no. And then finally, do you have any other employees who are tribal council members subject to Revenue Ruling 5959? We're going to choose no. And yes, of course, we do have employees who are members of the clergy. We're going to leave that as yes. We don't want to use control numbers. It's optional, but if you only have multiple churches or databases, that might be helpful. And if you have any employees who have chosen to receive W-2s forms electronically, again, you would want to make the appropriate choice. In those cases, those two are no for us. Click Next. No control number. We are a 941 filer, 501c, and we're going to click Next. There is location to enter third-party sick pay after the adjustment has been calculated if necessary. Okay. Software will know which employee that is based on the adjustment that you've calculated in payroll. We're not going to cover that. All right, we click Next. How do we want to list the Social Security numbers on the W-2s? No truncation, truncated with asterisks or X's. It's your choice. I believe all of the above are considered acceptable. So we're going to choose truncated with asterisks. We're going to click Next. Now it's actually sending the information into Atrix itself, into their spreadsheet. So it's going to come up here momentarily. Here it is. So this is now in the Atrix spreadsheet, all right? This is all of our employees, Social Security number information, addresses, wage amounts, tax amounts, everything as needed. This is where their system really effectively does work for you folks. So we're just going to continue to process the Next button. You see the little green Next arrow up there. Going to click on that, and it's basically there, and it's already found an error. So it says zip code cannot be blank, must be numeric, and must be formatted as, in this case, a 5-character zip code or 5 plus 4. Okay, so we have to click Go Back and Correct. So we clearly see, and this is really important, folks, is if there is a problem with the information as it's been fed into the Atrix system, you do not have to cancel out of this and go and enter it correctly in Church Windows in order to fix it. You can and should edit information here. So right here, I'm going to click in where it says it has the invalid zip code, and I'm just going to fix that right there. Okay, down to 5 characters. If I had +4, I could certainly enter that with a hyphen and then the 4 additional digits. You can edit virtually anything about this, folks. Name information, address information, Social Security numbers. If something is not right, it allows you to fix it. It even allows you to fix amounts over here under the respective box numbers. Okay, so if there's something that's wrong with regards to wages as they're entered here, or withholding amounts or something, you can just click right here and change that. Notice right here, edit state detail record. Okay, or right here I can type in some box 17 for particular state wages or state tax withholding. So again, no requirement to X out of it and start over again if you simply know the figure and amounts or corrections and need to fix them here. Okay? Sure, you can go back into payroll later after you're done and fix it if you want, but there's no need to go do it in payroll if you know what it is and you know it should be correct. So once we've made that change, we're going to simply continue to process to next. Notice up here in the upper left, verify additional employee information. The little blue bar is moving left to right as I click next. So it's now just going and clicking and doing a double check on everything. And here we now get a possible, here it's potential issue. Box 3, Social Security wages, and box 7, Social Security tips cannot be 0. Well, we've got ministers, so that's not true. Okay? So all we have to do on that is click continue without correcting. And we click next again. Any individual receiving while resident of a taxing school district income and guideline information, it basically says 8 warnings found. It will allow me to click continue without correcting, and that's what I'm going to do. I am unaware of any issues with those school district taxes being wrong. Okay? And if I click next one more time, it's going to bark at me about the Social Security and Medicare wages again and those same things, but it does allow me to go ahead and click continue without correcting. All right, so now once it moves past that, here's the window that kind of throws folks, okay? We don't have to do anything here, but we do have to click next to get to the choices that we need to make to either print an e-file or simply e-file. This is essentially an Atrix pitch page. You can enroll down here if you wish, but what I strongly recommend is you go to next. When we click next, now it opens up some various options for us, and these are the ones that I think are most important for you to understand. They want you to choose the complete W-2 e-filing. Either case, folks, $24.95 is the minimum charge that they're going to charge you for e-filing through Atrix, okay? But if we notice here, print and mail employee copies, $2.27 per employee, payee, employee. EW2 only employees copy is $1.20 if applicable, and they will file that, okay? But if you are only obligated to e-file the church's copies of these, W-2s and W-3s, you don't have to e-file or electronically send the forms to your employees, okay, and maybe even not to your state. It varies from one state to the next, right? So you may choose, and if you're only printing the forms because you have less than 10 overall returns, you're going to go down to this other one called Other Options. So if you see now, we now have the print employees W-2s. They do offer the option to e-file federal W-2 and W-3 and state W-2s and reconciliation forms for considerably less. Okay, well, it's the $24.95. But I was working with a person yesterday who had way more than the $24.95, and it still wind up being $1 an employee basically. So it wound up being about $40, so about 99 cents per employee, which is still pretty reasonable to have them e-file, and they still can choose to print the W-2s and W-3s and the state forms to distribute or send. Okay? So really, or for record keeping purposes for the church. So if I leave the e-file checked here and click next, it now says, yeah, I want to complete, but I don't want the complete e-file. If I go to next, it now opens up the option that says, okay, now I'm in the Atrix system where if I continue to next, it's going to open up like a setting up an account or logging in, entering my information, payment information, and what have you. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that. All right, but their system will take over and allow you to enter that information there. But we're now going to just go back and we're going to uncheck the e-file options, and it warns us here, in aggregate 10 or more IRS returns you're required to e-file. Yeah, we know. So if we're doing the same thing again, if we're on state, if we uncheck that, now it's going to allow us just simply to choose print. Okay. So if we now go to next, Again, it's going to try to sell us something. We're going to click next. And it's going to now say, do I want to select the states I want to file? Sure, that's fine. And what that's saying is I want to print the forms for these states too, whether it's for my purposes or the forms I can actually send in. Click next. Here's the report of the actual forms that I'm about to get. Sorry, folks, we're going to go a minute or two long today. So I can print this so I know exactly what I'm printing out next, albeit I think it's pretty apparent when you look at them. Okay, so you might want to print that before going to next, but we're going to go to next. Now it's actually opening up the actual forms that you can now print. And I cannot stress this enough, folks. In the upper left, notice the yellow banner with the blue bar. Report 1 of 10. Kentucky W-2s. I can send this here. I can print this. Atrix has permission to print these forms to plain paper. There is no requirement to purchase or use any of the actual government official forms. All of these can be printed to plain paper. So if I needed to do this for my sending in for the state of Kentucky here, I would click Print Final. It'll say insert the perforated forms you purchase now. You can click OK on that and still print it. I would send it to my printer. Okay. Once I've grabbed that off the printer and maybe notated on it or post-it flagged it, I would go to next, and it now opens up report 2 for the state of Mississippi. Okay, same thing. It's now opening up the form, allowing me to print final on that. Please insert the forms if I have them. If not, I can still print them to plain paper. It's really, folks, follow the bouncing ball here. But if I now go to next, it's all going to next step and print final. So here's my Ohio W-2s. So again, you see, you're basically printing out the actual tax documents either to send in or for your own record keeping purposes or to distribute to your employees. So if I would print final again, go to next step, it's going to ask me if I want to print. If I did, I would say yes, but for the purposes of our webinar now that we're a little behind here, I'm going to click no. It opens up the employee's W-2 now. This would be the ones that I can now print and distribute to and send to my employees if I don't opt to have Atrix send those to them, which many of you, I don't blame you for not doing. It's money. It's not cheap. And so here, I notice I've got Larry on page 1. I've got 1 of 10 pages. And if I go to page 2, it's now got Jimmy Hilliard, and all my employees are here. So I can now print final. Just, collate those and, put them in an envelope and send them or manually distribute them or do whatever I do. Okay. Next step. I'm not going to print them. Now it moves into the employer's W-2. This is for the church's record keeping purposes. Okay. Definitely print these, folks. Keep them. Okay. Again, printing final to print the actual hard copy. Go to next step. It says, please insert the perforated forms. You do not need to do that. Click OK. If you have them, you can, but if you don't worry about it. Again, I would print it, and then it opens up the next one. Here's my federal W-2s. These are the ones that we would physically send into the government with our W-3. Okay. These are the old format, 2 to a page. Okay. I've got 5 pages. Again, print final. If I want to send them to my printer, of course, if I'm sending those in. And then when I'm ready, click next step. And then it opens up my W-3 form, the summary of those. Okay. So then it opens that up. And I would print final again to send them to plain paper. Okay. Then I could include those with the federal W-2s, send those in. Next step. And then it opens up my Kentucky K-5 report. So again, you get it here. It's really just print final and next step and printing those. I'd have to enter information here. If I print final, is there missing information? Yeah, see, it says the state of Kentucky has not approved this form for print or mail. If you're filing W-2s, you can obtain a copy from the K-5 form from the state website. Okay, so this would be for my purposes, okay, record keeping. So I'd print it again, and next step opens up my Mississippi form. And then finally, page 10 of this would be the actual instruction sheet. So I'd have to fill in the appropriate information here for this. Oh, come on, Josh. Where am I clicking here? I got to complete these red forms fields, folks. So let me see if I can get this fixed. Just entering something here. So I'd have to enter an account ID. Of course, that information would be entered as part of my state. Print it, go to next step, agree, and then it opens up my final form of my W-2 notice. Okay? And finally, folks, again, I apologize for having gone a few minutes long. Once I've printed that, I might choose to print one of those to plain paper and then run it through a copier as opposed to using valuable ink or what have you. Go to next step, and now it says what I like. Well, it says, it's now completed the processing. Okay, so now I can find this again by going to my history list right here if I need to go back and reprint or do anything or amend or edit. Okay, once you e-file, though, those options are limited. Anything that would require amending something that was e-filed, you would have to do through the Atrix folks, through their account if applicable, but you can do it through the software. Okay. All right. So folks, that in a nutshell are the W-2s, the W-2 processing. Nothing terribly complex about it. It's just paying attention. That's really the best thing that I can kind of advise you about on this is just pay attention. Look at that yellow banner in the top left of the forms themselves if you're printing them. Again, look for the affordable option there under that other options. It really could save you money as long as you're willing to send or distribute the W-2s to your employees or your 1099s, or if you can still send in the state forms as the case may be. Okay, so it could be considerable savings if you print those and send those and just have Atrix e-file with the feds and the state for you if you're required to do that. So anyway, we hope this helps, but that is where I'm going to leave things for today.